Okay, let's see if we can get through the next couple of chapters. Basically chapter and a half. They built the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood 3 cubits high. It was square, 5 cubits long, and 5 cubits wide. They made a horn at each of the 4 corners, so that the horns and the altar were of one piece, and they overlaid the altar with bronze. They made all its utensils of bronze, its pots, shovels, sprinkling bowls, meat forks, and fire pans. They made a grating for the altar, a bronze network, to be under its ledge halfway up the altar. They cast bronze rings to hold the poles for the 4 corners of the bronze grating. They made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. They inserted the poles into the rings so they would be on the sides of the altar for carrying it. They made it hollow out of boards, otherwise it'd be way too heavy to carry. This is a big altar. This was, let's see here, what's the height and weight? 3 cubits high, 4.5 feet high, 7.5 feet long and wide. So this is a pretty big altar. And if it's made purely out of stone or wood, it would be acacia wood. It would be heavy to carry, so it's hollow on the inside. They made the bronze basin and its bronze stand from the mirrors of the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So women had a role in all this too. Next, they made the courtyard. The south side was 100 cubits long and had curtains of finely twisted linen, with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The north side was also 100 cubits long, and had 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The west end was 50 cubits wide, and had curtains with 10 posts and 10 bases, with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The east end, toward the sunrise, was also 50. This would be the entrance to the tent, by the way. Was also 50 cubits wide. Curtains 15 cubits long were on one side of the entrance, with 3 posts and 3 bases, and curtains 15 cubits long were on the other side of the entrance to the courtyard, with 3 posts and 3 bases. All the curtains around the courtyard were of finely twisted linen. The bases for the posts were bronze. The hooks and bands on the posts were silver, and their tops were overlaid with silver, so that all the posts of the courtyard had silver bands. The curtain for the entrance to the courtyard was of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer. It was 20 cubits long, and, like the curtains of the courtyard, 5 cubits high, with 4 posts and 4 bronze bases. Their hooks and bands were silver, and their tops were overlaid with silver. All the tent pegs of the tabernacle and the surrounding courtyard were bronze. These are the amounts of the materials used for the tabernacle of the testimony, which were recorded at Moses' command by the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron, the priest. Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made everything the Lord commanded Moses. With him was Aholiab, son of Ahishamach, of the tribe of Dan, a craftsman and designer, and an embroiderer in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen. The total amount of the gold from the wave offering used for all the work in the sanctuary was 29 talents and 730 shekels, according to the sanctuary shekel. I have a little footnote down here, and it says the weight of the gold was a little over 1 ton, about 1 metric ton. The silver obtained from those of the community who were counted in the census, remember the census, was 100 talents and 1775 shekels, according to the sanctuary shekel. That is weight of the silver was a little over 3 3/4 tons. 1 bekah per person, that is half a shekel, according to the sanctuary shekel. From everyone who had crossed over to those counted, 20 years old or more, a total of 603,550 men. The 100 talents of silver were used to that's their fighting force, by the way, that's their army. The 100 talents of silver were used to cast the bases for the sanctuary and for the curtain. 100 bases and the 100 talents, 1 talent for each base. They used the 1,775 shekels to make the hooks of the posts, to overlay the tops of the posts, and to make their bands. The bronze in the wave offering, so now we have the bronze, was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. That is about, wait, where am I now? The weight of the bronze is about 2.5 tons. They used it to make the basis for the entrance to the tent of meeting, the bronze altar with its bronze grating and all its utensils, the basis of the surrounding courtyard, and those for its entrance, and all the tent pegs to the tabernacle, and those for the surrounding courtyard. So that has to do with the furniture, basically. All the stuff, the physical items, has been made. Now we need the priest garments. From blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, they made woven garments for ministering in the sanctuary. They also made garments for Aaron, as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the ephod of gold, and of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of finely twisted linen. They hammered out thin sheets of gold, and cut strands to be worked into the blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen, the work of a skilled craftsman. They made shoulder pieces for the ephod, which were attached to 2 of its corners, so that it could be fastened. Its skillfully woven waistband was like it, of 1 piece of the ephod, and made with gold, and with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and with finely twisted linen, as the Lord commanded Moses. They mounted the onyx stones in gold filigree settings, and engraved them like a seal with the names of the sons of Israel. Then they fastened them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses. So they're up here. And he also has these stones on the breast, with each one having a name of a tribe. They fashioned the breastpiece, the work of a skilled craftsman. They made it like the ephod of gold and of blue. They made it like the ephod of gold and of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of finely twisted linen. It was square, a span long and a span wide, and folded double. Then they mounted 4 rows of precious stones on it. In the first row there was a ruby, a topaz, and a beryl. In the second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and an emerald. In the third row, a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. In the fourth row, a chrysolite, an onyx, and a jasper. They were mounted in gold filigree settings. There were 12 stones, 1 for each of the names of the sons of Israel, each engraved like a seal with the name of one of the 12 tribes. For the breastpiece, they made braided chains of pure gold like a rope. They made 2 gold filigree settings and 2 gold rings, and fastened the rings to 2 of the corners of the breastpiece. They fastened the 2 gold chains to the rings at the corners of the breastpiece, and the other ends of the chains to the 2 settings, attaching them to the shoulder piece of the ephod at the front. They made 2 gold rings and attached them to the other 2 corners of the breastpiece on the inside edge next to the ephod. Then they made 2 more gold rings and attached them to the bottom of the shoulder pieces on the front of the ephod, close to the seam just above the waistband of the ephod. They tied the rings of the breastpiece to the rings of the ephod with blue cord, connecting it to the waistband so the breastpiece would not swing out from the ephod, as the Lord commanded Moses. Whew, almost done. They made the robe of the ephod entirely of blue cloth, the work of a weaver, with an opening in the center of the robe, like the opening of a collar, and a band around this opening so that it would not tear. They made pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen around the hem of the robe. And they made bells of pure gold and attached them around the hem between the pomegranates. The bells and pomegranates all alternated around the hem of the robe to be worn for ministering, as the Lord commanded Moses. For Aaron and his sons, they made tunics of fine linen. Now this is, I guess, that part, I suppose, that we just got done reading, is the high priest uniform. There seems to be a distinction between the garments. Okay, back at the beginning of chapter 39, for instance, they're talking about making woven garments for ministering in the sanctuary, and also sacred garments for Aaron. So there was something that only the high priest wore. And I believe that's the ephod, breastpiece, and this other stuff we just got done reading. Now we're going to read more about, now this stuff I guess is part of all the priestly uniforms. For Aaron and his sons, that is the priests, they made tunics of fine linen, the work of a weaver, and the turban of fine linen, the linen headbands and the undergarments of finely twisted linen. The sash was of finely twisted linen in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, the work of an embroiderer, as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the plate, the sacred diadem, out of pure gold, and engraved on it, like an inscription on a seal, holy to the Lord. It goes around the forehead. Then they fastened a blue cord to it to attach it to the turban, as the Lord commanded Moses. So all the work on the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, was completed. The Israelites did everything just as the Lord commanded Moses. We'll hear that occasionally, not often though. Most of the times we're going to read about the Israelites not doing what the Lord has commanded them to do. In this case, they do. Then they brought the tabernacle to Moses. The tent and all its furnishings, its clasps, frames, crossbars, posts, and bases, the covering of ram skins dyed red, the covering of hides of sea cows, and the shielding curtain, the ark of the testimony with its poles and the atonement cover, the table with all its articles and the bread of the presence, the pure gold lampstand with its row of lamps and all its accessories, and the oil for the light, the gold altar, the anointing oil, the fragrant incense, and the curtain for the entrance of the tent, the bronze altar with its bronze grating, its poles and all its utensils, the basin with its stand, the curtains of the courtyard with its posts and bases, and the curtain for the entrance of the courtyard, the ropes and tent pegs for the courtyard, all the furnishings to the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and the woven garments worn for ministering in the sanctuary, both the sacred garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments for his sons when serving as priests. The Israelites had done all the work just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Moses inspected the work and saw they had done it just as the Lord had commanded. So Moses blessed them. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Set up the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, on the first day of the first month. Place the ark of the testimony in it, and shield the ark with the curtain." That curtain is going to be used to make a little room within a room, a tent within a tent. Bring in the table and set out what belongs on it. Then bring in the lampstand and set up its lamps. Place the gold altar of incense in front of the ark of the testimony, and put the curtain at the entrance to the tabernacle. Place the altar of burnt offering in front of the entrance to the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. Place the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put water in it. Set up the courtyard around it, and put the curtain at the entrance to the courtyard. Take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and everything in it. Consecrate it and all its furnishings, and it will be holy. That's again set apart, designated for a special use, sanctified, consecrated, all the same thing. Then anoint the altar of burnt offering and all its utensils. Consecrate the altar, and it will be most holy. Anoint the basin and its stand, and consecrate them. Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance to the tent of meeting, and wash them with water. Then dress Aaron in the sacred garments, anoint him and consecrate him, so that he may serve me as priest. We read about how they're supposed to do that several chapters ago, right before we had the scene with the calf. Aaron didn't lose his spot as God's designated high priest because of the calf sin. Bring his sons and dress them in tunics. Anoint them just as you anointed their father, so they may serve me as priests. Their anointing will be to a priesthood that will continue for all generations to come. All Israelite generations to come. Moses did everything just as the Lord commanded him. So the tabernacle was set up on the first day of the first month in the second year. This is after they've been out of Egypt. When Moses set up the tabernacle, he put the bases in place, erected the frames, inserted the crossbars, and set up the posts. Then he spread the tent over the tabernacle and put the covering over the tent, as the Lord commanded him. He took the testimony, those two tablets that God gave him, those replacement tablets, and placed it in the ark, attached the poles to the ark, and put the atonement cover over it. Then he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and hung the shielding curtain, and shielded the ark of the testimony, as the Lord commanded him. So that's what that curtain was for, to drape around the ark and create a little room within the rest of the tent. Moses placed a table in the tent of meeting on the north side of the tabernacle, outside the curtain, and set out the bread on it before the Lord, as the Lord commanded him. He placed a lampstand in the tent of meeting opposite the table, on the south side of the tabernacle, and set up the lamps before the Lord, as the Lord commanded him. Moses placed the gold altar in the tent of meeting in front of the curtain, and burned fragrant incense on it, as the Lord commanded him. Then he put up the curtain at the entrance to the tabernacle. He set the altar of burnt offering near the entrance to the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and offered on it burnt offerings and grain offerings, as the Lord commanded him. Now, for the most part, Moses is not going to be a priest. The priests will be the ones who actually administer these sacrifices. Moses' job will not be to do that in the long run. In the regular day-to-day scheme of things, that'll be Aaron and his sons who do that. Moses will not. But he is doing it here to initiate things, to get things started. He placed the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar and put water in it for washing. And Moses and Aaron and his sons used it to wash their hands and feet. They washed whenever they entered the tent of meeting or approached the altar, as the Lord commanded Moses. This is a ceremonial washing. They're not doing this for hygienic purposes. They're doing this to make themselves ceremonially clean and ready to minister as priests in the tabernacle. Then Moses set the courtyard around the tabernacle and altar, and put up the curtain at the entrance of the courtyard. And so Moses finished the work. Then the cloud, remember that cloud, it's still around, covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting, because the cloud had settled upon it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. So the Lord has taken up residence with his people. He is dwelling in the tabernacle. In all the travels of the Israelites, whenever the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, they would set out. But if the cloud did not lift, they did not set out until the day it lifted. So the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel during all their travels. Now we haven't yet gotten to their travels. That won't be until Numbers. Numbers will actually talk about how they're going to end up wandering around for 40 years. That hasn't happened yet here. At this point in time, that's still in their future, but it's being written about as if it already has. So what does get tricky about all this, because Moses is aware of all this as he's writing it down. This is something of a running diary, and something of a retrospective. And that shift in tense between what Moses knows in his present and what happened to him and his people in the past, and him applying his current knowledge to past events, even when he or other people may not have had that knowledge, is tricky. And it happens all the time in these early books of the Bible. Because this hasn't actually happened. We're getting in the description of how the cloud came and settled on the tent, and then would go out when there's. But we haven't yet gotten the story of them wandering around. Like that actually hasn't happened yet. They came to this tent from Egypt, this mountain, excuse me, from Egypt, and they've been staying here. But this is a bit of a flash forward to when they do leave, and they go wandering around for 40 years. Our next book is Leviticus, and this is all about sacrifices and moral laws. The Lord called, I'm not going to read it all, I'm just going to start off here. The Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, he said. So the God is now in the tent of meeting. He's now in the tabernacle, taking up residence with his people. And now we're going to be getting into the sacrificial system, which we've heard about, which we've talked about, but we haven't really gotten into the meat and gritty of, the nitty gritty of. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of Israel's worship system, the sacrificial system. So that's what we're going to be talking about next.